to 4 quadrants. Let's go through some of the fundamental definitions. So we have a new definition for sine theta, which is the y value on the circle. The cos theta is the x value, and tan theta is the y value divided by the x value. Okay. All right. So let's label the quadrants. So the first quadrants are first, second, third, and fourth, which go around anti-clockwise around the circle. Okay, and then we also need to know the angle. This is 0 degree. The next one is 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, and 360 degrees. Okay. Now, after we do this, let's label the sign of each coordinate. So what that means is, in the first coordinate, both the x and y values are positive, plus plus. Whereas in the second quadrant, the x value is negative, but the y values is positive. Right, does that make sense? Yep. And the third quadrant, both the x and y values are negative. And the fourth quadrant, the x value is positive, the y value is negative. Now this is important when we find out whether the sine ratio or the cos ratio are positive. So we need to fill in this table. Okay. I will go through reference angle later. We'll go through whether it is positive or not in which of these quadrants. So let's look at this carefully. So in the first quadrant, remember, sine theta is the y, cos theta is the x, tan theta is y over x. Okay, so in the first quadrant, y value is positive, so write plus. Okay, and in the second quadrant, x value is positive as well. So therefore, cos is positive. And tan theta is y over x. Positive divided by positive is positive. So in this case, everything is positive. All ratios are positive. Okay? So sine is the y. Cos is the x. Tan is y over x. They are all positive. Now in the second quadrant, things will be a bit different because the x value is now negative. So therefore, in the second quadrant, sine theta being the y value, it is still positive. Okay, but in the second quadrant, cos theta is negative. So I put negative. Okay, and then tan theta is positive. Y over x, positive divided by negative. What's positive divided by negative? Negative. So therefore, tan is negative. So in this case, only one ratio is positive, which is the sine ratio. All right, let's look at the third quadrant. In the third quadrant, the y value is negative, so sine theta will be negative. And cos theta is also negative. But tan theta, yep, okay. Okay, tan theta is y over x. Negative divided by negative is positive, right? Negative divided by negative is positive, so therefore tan is positive. And finally, we'll look at the fourth quadrant where the sine ratio is now negative. The y value is negative. So we'll go negative for sine, but positive for cos because the x value is plus. And then tan is y over x, so negative divided by positive is negative. So therefore, we got only cos being positive. So how do I remember this information? We just have to remember the order from first quadrant to the fourth quadrant in this order. All sine and then tan and then cos. So we have to remember these mnemonics, A, S, T, C. Now how do I remember these four letters in this order? You just have to remember that as all stations to Central. Okay, so let's write it down. All stations, or if you live in Caringbah, you can say all stations to Caringbah. To maybe Caringbah. Okay, so that will help you to remember. So if you remember this first letter of each of these words, you can remember these 4 important letters, which will tell you when it is positive, when it is negative. All right, any question? Sine, cos, negative, and finds reference angle. Okay, now before we move on to do the first example, we need to learn about the reference angle. Now, this is a very important concept. Another word for reference angle, sometimes I will call it the related angle. In the textbook, they say reference angle, but in the other year 11 textbook, they call it the related angle. They all mean the same thing. So what's a related angle? Is the acute angle the ray makes with the x-axis. The acute angle the ray makes with the x-axis. Okay, let's look at this ray. That's a ray there. In the first quadrant, this is the related angle. Okay? But what if the angle's in the second quadrant? The acute angle made with the x-axis is this. That's the reference angle. Okay, this angle here. And if it's in the third quadrant, the reference angle is over here. And if it's in the fourth quadrant, the reference angle is over there. Okay? So now we know where the reference angle is. We need to be able to quote the reference angle and calculate the reference angle. Okay? All of these are reference angle. Okay, now we're going to do example 1. Okay, so we've got these examples to go through, and we're going to find out whether, so we have to state which quadrant, state in which quadrant theta lies, state whether sine, cos, or tan are positive or negative, find its reference angle. So there's a few things we need to do there. So let's go through the first step. The angle is 70 degrees, so you go 70 degrees, right? That's 70. So you say this is the first quadrant. And in the first quadrant, everything is positive. So write sine theta is positive, cos theta is positive, tan theta is positive. And find reference angle. In the first quadrant, the reference angle is same as the angle itself. So you can write down reference angle equals to 70 degrees. Alright, pretty easy. And we'll do the same thing for the other 4 quadrants. I'm going to enlarge it so that I've got enough space. 130 degrees, that will be in the second quadrant. How do I know which quadrant it lies? Just remember this angle. 90, 180, 270. These are the boundary angle. So if the angle lies between 90 and 180, we call that, that will be in the second quadrant. Okay, so we're going to write down 130. So we're going to draw a ray in the second quadrant. I'm going to write 130 over here. Let me write this off in blue. Okay, so write 130 over here. Okay, so basically that's where 130. And the related angle, remember, it is the acute angle with the x-axis. That's your related angle, or the reference angle. So you say reference angle. Now, how do I find the reference angle? We can use angle sum of a straight line, which is equal to 180 minus 130, which is 50. That's your reference angle, which will be later important. Now we just need to know how to calculate it. Okay, now in the second quadrant, which one is positive? Which quadrant is, which ratio is positive? Only station, sine. Everything else is negative. So write sine theta is positive, cos theta is negative, tan theta is negative. Get the idea? Now do the same thing for the next question. Alright, let's continue. Next one, that will be in the third quadrant. Okay, third quadrant will be over here. Okay, so this angle is 237. And we'll find the related angle. Now, how do you find related? That's this angle here, the acute angle with the x-axis. Now, to do this question, you just have to do 237 subtract 180. What would that be? 57. Yep, 57 degrees. That's your related angle or reference angle. Okay. Now, in this quadrant, which one's positive? Sine, cos, or tan? Tan is positive. All station 2. So that's positive. That's negative. Both are negative. Oh yeah, you must have found the other angle. Remember, it's the angle we make with the x-axis. X-axis, not with the y-axis. Okay, so you could make this common mistake. All right, remember, it's the x-axis. The related angle is the acute angle with the x-axis. All right, finally, look at the angle in the fourth quadrant, which is 300 degrees. 300 degrees. We're now going to find the related angle. This angle here, related, which is equal to 360 minus 300, which is 60 degrees. Okay, 60 degrees. Now, which ratios are positive? Cos, yeah. So cos will be positive, but both sine are negative. All right, so we completed this example. Now we have a deeper understanding about the fourth quadrant and its connection with the trigonometric ratios. We now have to do some questions. We'll do some Actually, we'll still have to do some investigation before we do questions. Okay. All right, let's go through this. So our aim is to find the exact ratio of trigonometric ratio. So we're going to go through this diagram again. All right. Okay, so remember, what's the definition of sine? Sine is the y value, cos is x value. So now in the first quadrant, we can work out what this is. X will be the cos of the angle, x, cos 30. What's cos 30? Remember the exact values. What's cos 30? Root 3 over 2. Very good. What's sine 30? 1 over 2. Okay, so remember this. Now, why do I do this? This will give me the x and y value of this point, isn't it? Remember, cos is the x, sine is the y. Yes? Now, this is needed for the next part. We're going to flip this across. See the 150 degrees? What's the related angle for 150? It's 30 again. That's why they're related, right? They're related because they will have the similar ratio. So remember, in the first quadrant, it is root 3 over 2.5. What would this coordinate going to be? They seem to be a reflection of each other. So what's this coordinate? It must be negative root 3 over 2.5. Get the idea? So that's why they're related angle, because they have the same ratio but different sign. Now, that will help us to calculate sine of 150. Now, what's sine of 150 again? It is the y value. And what's the y value? Half. And this is same as positive sine 30, right? Whereas cos 150 is the x value, which is the negative root 3 over 2. This is same as doing cos of 30, but with an extra negative in front. So calculating cos 150 is same as calculating cos of the related angle. Just that the sign got changed. That's why the related angles are very important. Okay, and we can do the same thing with the other two quadrants. So let's look at the third quadrant. Right, I'll just leave it on for a while. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, 210. Let's find the related angle. You can probably guess it right. It must be 30. How do I know it's 30? 210 minus 180 is 30. And that 30 tells you is going to be related to the values of this 30 there, right? Remember that coordinate. It is √3/2 half. How do I know this? I know that from this part, right? This didn't change, still √3/2. But if you reflect it, what would it be? It's going to be negative √3/2 negative half. So sine being the xy value will be negative √3/2, and cos being the x value will be negative half. Actually, the other way. Oops. Negative half for sine and negative √3/2. Right? Now, in terms of the related angle, this is equal to negative of sine 30 and negative cos 30, isn't it? Because in the third quadrant, only tan is positive, both sine and cos are negative. All right, we've got one more step. And then we're going to do some questions. How much? We've been talking for 16 minutes. Okay, let's move on to the next quadrant. Okay, the last quadrant is this. It's √3/2 and half again. And when we reflect this, it's going to be negative, still √3/2, but negative half with the same related angle, right? So remember, again, sine is the y value, cos is the x value, and the y value is negative half, but the x value is positive √3/2. And in this case, it's still equal to sine 30 and cos 30, except that in the fourth quadrant, sine is negative, cos is positive. Okay? So that will give us a technique later on to calculate trigonometric ratios of any angles, which will be summarized on your next page, on page 18. So let's look at page 18. We'll now have a strategy to calculate not just the 30, but any other angles. So we conclude the following. Okay, page 18. All right. Yeah. So we can conclude that trigonometric ratios of any angle are the same as the trigonometric ratio of its related angle, apart from a possible change of sign. All right, could be positive or negative, but they have the same magnitude. So now we can calculate ratios of any angle using these 4 steps. All right, let's follow these steps. Okay, say I want to find cos 162. How do I find cos 162? Firstly, is to find out the quadrant. It's in the second quadrant. And then we find the related angle. How do we find related? We do 180 minus 162, which is 18. And the question say, find the following in terms of its reference angle. And then you go, that's the same as cos 18, except that in the second quadrant, cos is negative. Get the idea? So cos 162 is same as negative cos 18. You can check this out on a calculator if you want to check whether it's correct. So say you do cos 162, you get this long number there, negative 0.95. And similarly, you can do negative 18 degrees. So, negative. You get the same answer, right? They have the same answer. All right, good. Let's do another one. Tan 230 degree. What quadrant is this? Third quadrant. And you find the related angle. Okay, how do you find related? 230 minus 180, which is 50 degrees. Okay, so tan 230 will be same as tan 50. Is it positive or negative? Positive. All station 2. T is in the third quadrant, means tan is positive. So you just leave it like that. Okay, now we're going to do the exact ratios, the special triangles. So we've got these problems. Now, hopefully you can fill out these tables. fill out this table. If you memorize the values, that would be great. It will help you to do these questions. Yep. 230 minus 180. Remember, it's the x-axis, not with the y. Okay, good. Let's do this question. Now, if you remember these ratios, that will really help you. Let's fill them out. It should take you less than 10 seconds. See, half. That's half. That's root 3 over 2. That's root 3 over 2. Right? Both are 1 on root 2. And then you got 1 here, root 3, 1 over root 3. You can do it very quickly. Okay, let's move on to do some example 3 when you're ready. So fill in this table. So if you memorize it, that will really help you. Okay, let's look at example 3. Okay, sine 300 degree. How do I do that? First, let's look at the procedure. Find the quadrant. So we find the quadrant which is in the fourth quadrant. Next, find the related angle, which is 60 degrees. 360 minus 300. That's the second step. Third step, we have to know whether it's positive or negative. In the fourth quadrant, is sine positive or negative? So you write negative sine 60. Now, what's sine 60? If you look at the table, sine 60 is root 3 over 2. But if you remember, that will be excellent. So the answer will be negative root 3 over 2. So now I know how to calculate this using this 4 steps approach. Quadrant, related angle, the sine, answer. Okay, very quick. Try the next one. Tan 225. So which quadrant? 225 is in the, third quadrant. 225, right? Related angle, 45. So because you do 225 minus 45, which is 1, you're right. So you get tan of 45, but in the, tan 45 is, sure, okay. Positive, which is 1. Tan 45, yep. Okay, yeah. All right, now, the next thing I want you to do is this. How do I get better at this? There's lots of practice questions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Our answers are here, okay? Once you finish them, you'll be invincible. Okay, all right, so do them. Do these questions, okay? Follow these 4 steps. Start now, and then you can do the exercise. Thank you. Thank you.